This is a quick introductory video to the liquidity swings and sweep indicator for TradingView that helps visualize areas of liquidity and mark them as they're being taken on the chart. This is a free indicator. It's liquidity swings and sweeps. You can find it inside TradingView, and I'll also include the link to the indicator in the description of this video as well. I'm making this video as I'm about to release a new version, which also has alert capabilities. Once the liquidity is taken, it is able to generate the alert, allowing you to choose the strength of the liquidity sweeps that you wish to be alerted on. What I want to do today is very quickly explain how the indicator works and what are the key settings that are used within this indicator. There are three main settings, and I've taken a screenshot, which you can see here, called the swing sensitivity left, swing sensitivity right. And what that does is it provides the criteria for what is considered to be a swing high or swing low. This setting indicates the number of bars to the left. For example, for this swing to be considered a valid swing based on this criteria, it needs to be the highest point, 5 bars to the left. As you can see here, 5 bars, that's valid. And it also needs to be the highest value, 2 bars to the right, which is also the case. This would be, for the purposes of our criteria, a valid swing. Now, depending on what time frame you're in or what you want to do, you may want to increase these values. What I will say is that the swing to the left is the most important because that is denoting the extent of liquidity taken. This is a stronger swing because it takes liquidity for 54 bars, which is roughly 27 minutes on 30-second time frame, a strong sweep of liquidity. Versus something like this would be a much weaker sweep because it only takes roughly 5 bars worth of liquidity. This swing high takes out the previous swing high right here, so very weak sweep in that respect. The right sensitivity is more of a measure, what was the reaction to the sweep? So the price immediately drop, or did it chop around and went to take the swing back up? For example, this swing right here, the price did go down, but very quickly, within about 11 bars, it came back and reswept that high again. Those are the criteria that can help identify the stronger or weaker liquidity swings. I picked these default values based on my own trading style and a 30-second time frame. If your trading style is different and you're looking for stronger liquidity swings, you would want to increase or decrease these values as needed. The next setting, which is called Find Maximum Liquidity, if you disable that setting, the indicator is only going to mark out the actual swings that were swept by the drop. For example, right here on this drop, we would say this was the last meaningful swing that was swept. But we actually went a little bit further down and we swept this liquidity as well. Find maximum liquidity will actually look for within the smallest swing highs and swing lows that only have one candle to the left or the right to give you the idea of the total amount of liquidity that was swept by this particular drop. This setting does make the indicator a little bit slower, but it gives you a better sense of the total cumulative liquidity that was taken. It is on by default, but if you're not looking for that type of precision, you can always turn it off and just focus on the swing highs and swing lows and what swept them. Those are the three main settings in terms of functionality. When it comes to appearance, I have a couple of different options to identify the colors that are represented by the liquidity swings. Green for bullish sweeps, swings, and red for the bearish ones. You can indicate the line width, have it as 1 by default. You can also choose to show the label and rating, which you can see right here. And if you move your cursor over it, it'll actually show you the price level that's swept, when it was created, when it was swept, and how much time had passed for the sweep. That'll give you the criteria. And internally, the indicator tries to identify weak, okay, strong, or very strong sweeps, primarily based on the number of bars that it passed since the swing was made and then the liquidity was swept. The greater the time, the stronger the sweep is to be considered. These snowflake icons are the weakest sweep because They only swept liquidity, as you can see in this particular case, 4.5 minutes, not a very big sweep, or another 4.5 minute sweep here, or even a small sweep right here of only a minute and a half. Once you get into a larger size swings like this one, which is almost a little over an hour, or this one that is over 10 minutes, then they carry higher prominence and are marked with an icon that indicates there's a stronger sweep. Now, in the new version I'm about to release, you can also set up alerts so that if a liquidity is swept, and you can use checkboxes to mark which liquidity you're looking to be alerted about when it's swept, it'll generate an alert, and I'll show you how to set that up. And you can also add a prefix message that will be appended to the alert message along with the same value that appears in the tooltip to give you a better sense of what has actually been swept in terms of liquidity. That is the general overview of the various settings. To give you an idea of how the chart works in practice, the first time you load it, you'll only have one swing low and high that are most recent. As price action starts to move in here and new swings are formed and new liquidity swept, new values will appear. It'll try to keep the number of liquidity sweeps to a minimum. As highs or the lows are swept, they're removed from the chart. You only have the sweep referenced in the chart to keep things clean. Right here, you could see there are bullish sweeps that were not taken, so they remain on the chart until they're actually swept by the price action. So the indicator tries to keep the number of lines on the chart to a minimum so it doesn't take away from what you're trying to see. This is a basic operation. If I change the settings a little bit and I remove the maximum liquidity setting, then it's only going to mark out the actual swings, not the maximum liquidity. And hopefully it'll become apparent in the chart very quickly as we go through this. To give you an example of what the setting did. This was a valid swing that was swept by this candle right here, but you will notice this candle also swept this low and this low. We didn't have the maximum liquidity setting enabled. The sweep is only an okay sweep of 8.5 minutes, even though technically we swept the liquidity from all the way from here, indicating that this was actually a 30-minute or over 30-minute liquidity sweep, which would actually give you a much better sense of the strength of this particular sweep. So this is where the value of using the maximum liquidity setting comes in. It is not just going to look for the most recent swing, but it's actually going to look for the entirety of the liquidity that was swept that may be greater than the swing, because this was a swing, it wasn't actually swept, but we did pretty much take all the liquidity up to that swing. And that is an important value, which is one of the reasons I recommend keeping setting of finding maximum liquidity on, so that you can actually see the entire liquidity that was taken by a particular swing high or swing low. I'm going to exit the replay mode here for a second to show you how to set up alerts. So if you're not in a replay mode, you can move over the indicator and you can click on Add Alert on Liquidity Sweeps, and you have the ability to enter the alert name. Everything else you can keep the same. You don't need to put a date. General command for alert name is keeping the name descriptive so you know what's going on. So liquidity on the second time frame to reflect the time frame that I'm on, because you may have multiple charts on multiple time frames and you may be using indicator on all of them. So you want to know on which time frame the liquidity was swept. And this is the quickest and easiest way of doing it. And now once you click creating this alert will be created. It will run indefinitely. And anytime there is a liquidity sweep that meets the criteria in terms of configuration that you've set up in the indicator settings, it'll generate alert that can appear on your screen, or it can even be sent to your mobile device if that is a setting that you choose to notify in the app, and all those kind of things. So I hope that gives you a sense of how this indicator works and provides clarity around the new alert feature that is going to be added in version 2 that is about to be released.